As I mentioned last time, we're going to be going over various issues and areas of the world to try to focus in and prioritize and develop a message and a theme that you can take to your senators and representatives, even to the White House and the State Department, about Israel and the Middle East. Frequently now I'm asked about Syria. What should we do in Syria? On which side should we intervene, if either? And is there any hope for that terrible land that is bleeding so profusely? This is a big and a wide subject, but let me touch on a few points that we can emphasize to our congressmen and women, our representatives that is, and our senators, and even the White House. The United States today, sadly, does not really have a coherent policy that has been articulated, that has been expressed, so that every American who's interested could say, this is what we're aiming for in Syria, and by implication throughout the Middle East. So I suggest that we urge our representatives and our senators to enact legislation which is like the Syria Freedom Support Act of the last Congress, of the 112th Congress, which was passed out of the House Foreign Affairs Committee unanimously on a bipartisan basis, but sadly did not get enacted before the end of the Congress. And so what this would do is to set policy whereby American national security interests and those of Israel, our good friend and ally, and other allies in the Middle East, would be protected. But that also we would insist that there be free elections that were supervised in Syria, that there be respect for the rights of all persons and all parties and all religious groups, all minorities, including Christians and other groups. So this sounds like a simple and pretty direct thing to do, but sadly our government has not done it, so that we cannot criticize the Russians and the Chinese and others for not following our lead if we are not leading. And if the White House and the State Department would like to, shall we say, improvise each time something comes up in Syria or more broadly in the Middle East, that's not good enough. So I encourage you to contact your representatives in the U.S. House of Representatives and your two senators and say, we need this new legislation on Syria, like the Syria Freedom Support Act of the last Congress, so that the United States, all of our policymakers at both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue, in the Congress and also in the White House, in the executive branch, are on the same page, and we know what we're aiming for. For the word says, without a vision, the people perish. We need that vision clearly articulated by our government, and we need to understand that this is part of Congress's mandate, not just to make domestic policy, but to make foreign policy in conjunction with the President and his cabinet. So I urge you to do that, and we will keep in touch on Capitol Hill to make sure your senators and representatives are getting that message and are moving ahead to, shall we say, help the President and the State Department to get it right, to say what we really want to see happen in Syria, because I think that's the first step before we're going to get the Russians and others to have all parties come to the table for negotiations. Thank you. This is another Washington Bite, and we'll see you next week.